To welcome Casey's Outdoor Solutions as a sponsor to our podcast. Casey's is a premier garden center and gift shop located in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Casey's offers a wide selection of plants, landscaping materials, home and garden decor, and gifts for every occasion. Casey's is committed to providing exceptional service, a unique shopping experience, and value to every customer. Stop in and see what makes Casey's so unique. Located at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana, or call 812-537-3800. Let Casey's help you add beauty to your home.
All right, what is going on, guys? Here I'm sitting here. I'm hanging out with the newly. He just had a little birthday action, so sitting here with the one and the only, the old man.
Oh, hey,
Merle Hutchinson.
hey! You know what? Wait, I'm going to stop you right here. So Linda jumped my case from our last show. She said that I was mean to you, and it comes off bad.
Really?
Yeah.
The show with Will?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, like at the very beginning, you and I were trash talking to each other.
Okay.
I don't even really know, but she was like,
Well, Linda, thank you.
know,
Thanks for you got my back.
Wait. Like I said, obviously you didn't listen to the show before that when he was trashing me all over the place, and I was like, I'm not even going to. She said, "Are you going to edit that out?" We had already hit the go button on that one. That was
We don't
gone.
edit anything.
And I'm like, no. Part of us men is being that's kind of how you establish friendship of being able to take a little hit, give a little hit. And so she just said, well, it just comes off totally wrong. And I was like, yeah, so if any of you guys out there that are listening feel like we are too mean to each other, then you probably have to listen to a different show.
I was hoping you didn't say we're going to turn it down a little bit, because I'm like, no,
we might amp it up. Yeah.
We're doubling down, Linda.
I think I called you a wimp or something. Like, you are going to be the wimp of wimps. And she's like, that's mean. I'm like, oh, please. So anyway.
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah. So what's going on? We got Father's Day coming up.
I know. This is pretty cool.
This is all about us.
Yeah,
this is all about us.
Yeah. So as we are recording the show, we have Father's Day coming up here on Saturday. So it'll be good, especially obviously you strong dads out there. The whole point of this show is all about dad. So I think
this is our day.
It's our day. Yes. So
I hear wives right now saying, "Oh yeah, every day is their day. Every day is their day."
And that's simply not true. It'll be. I'm looking forward to it. It's the one day where I get the seal of approval to go play golf for sure. And so my dad and I and my brother are going to go play some golf. So
there you go.
It should be good. What do you got? You got big plans this weekend, right?
We're actually going to go out and see my older sons. So and they're both dads now.
All right.
So the younger one, it is his first actual Father's Day. So we'll have some fun with that. So yeah, I mean, nothing in particular for me specifically, but the idea that we'll be hanging out with the fam, we're gonna have a good time. So
awesome.
Yeah.
So it's crazy, especially as the time comes around every year for Father's Day, and now that I obviously don't live with my dad and I get to see my dad less. Not that I don't see him a lot, I still get to see him quite often. But I started to think back and to think about my dad and realize the significant role that he played in my life and developed me and the man I am today. And on the show, Merle, we get to share a little bit about our dads and our dad experience. And so I thought now, obviously with Father's Day coming up, I thought it'd be really cool just to share a little story, something that our dad has done for us, that has put us in the position we're in today, kind of helped develop us into the man that we are. So with that, the mic is yours. You got to share something about your old man.
30 seconds, go. I think I completely took what my dad was doing for granted until I actually not just became a dad, but until I actually worked in the field that I work in. And the idea that my home was relatively stable, that I knew about, I had a level of faith in Christ. I had discipline. I had work ethic. We had humor. We had stability and sense of security because we just knew that home was solid.
Sure.
These are things that were all provided for by my mom and dad, and providing, primarily dad in the sense of he had the one that was most likely the ability to blow it up or to keep it together.
Yeah.
And so his strength always kept it together, and I completely took that for granted growing up. So when you ask about like share a story, I can't share. I mean, I have thousands of stories,
Sure.
but just the whole idea that I never questioned the solidness growing up, the solidness of what our family was, and it was just due to my dad's commitment to not blowing it up. And it didn't always go that way. So we've shared in previous shows that there was a blow up season that we had in our family. But it was a blow up because of my dad, and
Sure.
which then that also reinforced the significance and the impact that fathers have. So anyway, I am so grateful for my dad. I take care of him and his older days.
He's got some health problems right now.
Yeah, he's 87. He struggles, and there's a lot of other people, brothers and sisters, and everybody coming in that kind of carry the load. He's a shell of the man in terms of his physical ability, but his what he has left my siblings and I is something that we just stand for, and we fight to keep it in our family now. So I am beyond thrilled to have the dad that I have. And on top of that, he was adventurous. He had a crazy sense of humor. He was not afraid of anything. Yeah. And those are all the other little things that just come in.
Yeah.
My kids still love to go see him because even in his failing health, he's ornery and funny and tough.
Sure.
And so those are things that we still just take away from Grandpa Hutch.
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool.
How about you?
Oh man. Like I said, with Father's Day, I started thinking about my dad, and man, there's for sure, again, similar to what you're saying, not necessarily, I can't really pinpoint like one story, but man, I tell you what, my dad always has my back, even to this day. And I've briefly shared this a little bit on this show. I've never once questioned if my dad would have my back.
Yeah.
And not that my dad always agrees or is like, give me the seal of approval on the things I'm doing. But man, there's never once when I looked and like, I wonder if dad would support me in this, and that, to me, that's so empowering for just growing up, whether it was in sports. I can remember running up and down the basketball court, and I'd shoot, miss a shot, or have a turnover, whatever, in basketball or whatever sport I'm doing, and the first person I'd look at was my dad. Like I knew he was there, and I knew he was present, and I wanted that so much, knowing that it was already there, knowing I already had his approval. Like he's gonna approve what I'm doing, even in my mess ups. But it's so refreshing, so awesome to have a dad that is behind me.
Yeah, he believes in you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think of that, and my dad is super, super competitive, and pass that along. I now have two girls who aren't necessarily always the most competitive people. So anytime I'm around my brother, I'm like, dude, we're playing something. Let's go.
On,
right?
Yeah.
And it's all stems from my dad. My dad, like, ingrained that in my brother and I. Like, you play to win, right? That's what you're here for. And with that, even with like the competitive nature of my dad and the things he passed along, one of the things that I have tried to do and I've learned from my dad is he never once had a cookie cutter approach to how he raised. I have an older sister and a younger brother, and I'm the middle. So there's three of us, two boys and one girl.
That explains a lot about you.
I'm the middle, yeah. But I got to see my dad, parent different for each of us.
Yeah.
My sister and brother are like intellectually a lot smarter than I am. And he held them to a high standard when it comes to their grades. And he knew for me, I'm more with my hands. Like, that's just how I function. And so not that he lowered the standard as far as what his expectation to me, but he also knew that being in the high-level classes wasn't for me. But he also, again, going back to my first thing with my dad, like he was behind me. He supported me. Like,
that's right, yeah.
If you want to go to a technical college, if you want to go to, whatever Scarlet Oaks, a more career-focused program, like, I'm all in. I think that's great for you. Yeah. So that was one thing definitely with my dad. He always knew that I was different than my brother's different than my sister, and he's going to parent us a little bit different.
Not one's better than the other.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
sure.
Man, that is such a big point. Otherwise, we see this all the time. One sibling trying to live at the standard that the other sibling has set versus the parent saying, That's not even on the table.
Yeah.
You are who you are. That's great that your dad was, I wonder if he had the insight to act, or whether he actually had the thought, like, I have to do this differently, or was that just natural to him, that he just was just taking you for who you were? Or did he actually, think, oh, I want so bad for him to be more like this or that? I just wonder. Like, I never felt that from my parents. Like, I never felt like they were trying to push me to be somebody I wasn't. But
yeah. Well, and I've talked to my dad a little bit about, like, when my dad's dad, my grandpa, who I didn't know very well, my dad would be the first to tell you that he was absent for a large part of my dad's life. He was in and out. He was a very hard worker and wasn't necessarily always present. And so when him and my mom got married and they decided to start having kids, I think it was a conscious decision, because they didn't always have the best example of that, what it looked like to be that role model, that parent,
right.
Always providing. So it's something that, my dad has said, like, my mom wanted this when it came to having kids. My dad wanted this, and they talked about it, and then that's kind of what they ingrained in us. So.
Yeah. That's good stuff. All right. Well, hey, we're going to thank a couple sponsors here, and then we're going to talk a little bit about, so what are you doing as a dad, and how can you be better at that particular responsibility that we take on? And because there's always room for improvement, right? Yep. We fall short daily, so we're going to talk a little bit about how to help that out. So I'd like to thank the Crimer Beer House for coming alongside of Strong Dads and being one of our sponsors. Those guys have been with us for quite a while.
They have been.
We just want to thank those guys. If you are interested in a great meal, cool place to hang out with a neat atmosphere, go down to Crimer's Beer House, and located down on 128 outside of Cleves, Ohio. So great place, especially, that'd be a good Father's Day meal.
That would be a great little gift card from down there.
I might have to drop a hint. Yeah, as if I just didn't.
Very cool. Yeah, so thanks so much for them. Also, we would love to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions for coming alongside of us. Casey's Outdoor Solutions in Lawrenceburg. Check them out. The cicadas, I think, are going away. So if you were afraid of cicadas and now they're going away and you're ready to do some yard work, definitely go down.
We're talking to Strong Dads. Did you really just say, if you are afraid? Listen,
there's some men out there that are afraid of these daggone things. All right,
are you one of them?
I'm not. No.
Okay. You would not that you would admit. I would never.
Well, I noticed the last couple of days they just turned off. The switch was turned off.
They're just like that. Yeah,
But it's crazy, and I'm sure Casey's can attest to this. When you start ramping up your mowers and weed whackers, holy cow! I had 20 of them on top of me. I think there's a video of the guy's got one of those concrete saws, and he's just covered in them.
Yeah, I was power washing last weekend, and luckily it was 90 degrees outside. And I just had on a pair of swim trunks, and they were all over my body. And for the first 3 or 4 minutes, I was trying to shoo them away, and finally I'm like,
just whatever,
just because they don't bite, they don't sting, they just feel weird. And it was just crazy. But
anyways, check out Casey's Outdoor Solutions.
If any of you men are afraid of a little cicada, you need to come check me out at Strong Dads, Rock Solid Families. We need to work on that.
Yes. Check out Casey's Outdoor Solution. We really do appreciate you guys coming alongside of us.
All right. So why this topic? All right. So we get to spend one day out of the year celebrating being a dad. And showing the appreciation, and we know our moms usually do a much better job of showing appreciation for us on Strong Dads than probably we do on Mother's Day. So that's one reason why we're having the show. All right.
We also, one of the big reasons why we started Strong Dads is to speak into dads and try and figure out this whole thing of fatherhood together. And we've talked here all the time about the significant roles that dads play, positive or negative, when it comes to raising our kids and raising up the next generation. And again, similar to what you're saying, Father's Day is great to be able to celebrate our dads. Yeah. But I think it goes way beyond just one day a year. We have to realize the significant value that us as men, us as dads play in developing and growing up the next generations, because, man, right now, more than ever, dads are being downplayed. Mm-hmm. Men in the world are just being downplayed, and statistics, as we've put on the show before, just would prove otherwise, that men in the home, men being involved, being present, is huge. The value is so long term and so generational. So it goes beyond just one day.
Yeah, I listen to all kinds of stuff, read all kinds of stuff about family health, family dynamics, those kind of things. And I also happen to listen to too much news and those kind of things. And, I think the driving force under what we do so much here at Strong Dads and Rock Solid Families is the idea of the necessity of the dad, of the father. I want to, not to correct anything that you said, because you are right, but there's a reason. Sometimes us men deserve the separation that we've gotten because we have not realized the importance. I think we diminish the job, like, oh, well, I guess they can go without me. They'll figure it out.
Yep.
Or our selfishness takes us out of the picture. And so, those guys, and those are the ones we challenge. We want to challenge you guys who are getting ready to walk out of a marriage or to lead the family, or, you think you have better interest. And because, listen, you're going to pay for that. And we are going to pay for that as a society. So we celebrate because dads are necessary, and we celebrate when we do a good job.
Yep.
Guys who are not doing a good job, you got to be able to be called out. And part of what we're going to do today is call out you and I, as well as encourage what we're trying to do. If you want to make your life better, make your family better, and you're going to see it pay off in a huge way.
Yep. So kind of as we move forward into this show, some of the stuff that I kind of jot down for just some things to look at and start to evaluate as we realize the importance of the role that the dad plays in a home. A lot of these I picked up on just leadership roles, things you can do to be a strong leader. I feel like, I kind of took some of those ideas and moved them into the dad form. So things we can do for the dad. So these are just a list of just stuff that I kind of took from the leadership thing, especially in my world, being a firefighter, where sometimes it is life and death, like having a good, strong leader. I think we can take those objectives and those things that we hold on to for good leaders and move those into, the home and what it takes to be a good dad, because, again, the role that the dad plays is so vitally important. So, these are just a few odds and ends things that I kind of jotted down. So, hopefully you guys get something out of it. Hopefully it brings up some good conversation for you.
I like your first point, the whole idea of you as a dad, you have to generate the vision for your family and your kids. That's your job. And you have to also know that the vision that you're creating, what it's based off of. Sometimes it's, well, my kids are going to be, tough, or my kids are going to be well-educated, or my kids are going to be good athletes. Well, is that a good enough vision to build your family off of? And it's why we often, here at Strong Dads, we are faith-based. And the reason for that is not because somebody told us that we should believe in Jesus. It's because we've actually seen that the foundation of that vision is the one that pays, the one that really contributes to all of these other successes. And so that whole idea then of, for us, I am encouraging my kids to have a faith in Jesus, and I don't want them to do that just because I said so. I want them to actually see, okay, what happens when you do? What happens when you don't? And that's actually what moved me into taking this seriously. It wasn't, because somebody said so. It was because I got to see it every day at work as to what happens when guys leave that strong vision. Okay. And so that, you talk about the idea of you got to teach them that once you do, then you teach them to crawl and then to walk and then to run. So.
And that idea of a vision that we're instilling, like every man should have a vision for themselves. And then, Jenny and I we've talked about, like, what do we want our girls to be? What do we want them to function as adults? In 25 years, like, I mean, a vision that I have for my marriage is divorce is not an option. Like, I want to have my 50th wedding anniversary with Jenny. Like, that's a vision that I have. And because I feel like if you don't have those tangible visions, then that argument turns into 2 arguments, which turns into not talking to each other, which turns into the divorce. But when I make that statement that divorce is not an option for us, we're going to hit our 50th wedding anniversary. We're going to die. We're going to grow old together, right? Like that's a vision that I have for my marriage, and that trickles into a vision that we have for our girls. You know, right now we're in the midst of in the swim lessons, and you know, I want my girls to know how to swim. I feel like it's a life lesson. I don't need them to be like Olympic world-class swimmers, but I need them to know how to swim, right? And if I were we were just talking about before the show, if I were just to throw them in the deep end, like, part of me think that's a decent idea, but I also think like
so it worked for John Wayne.
But it's also like there's a progression, and your vision needs to be the same way. Like you can't just one day say, I want my girls to love Jesus, and then you never speak of who this Jesus guy is in your family. Like there has to be this progression. So your vision has to have goals established throughout the vision. Like the vision is the big picture. You have to have multiple goals in mind to go and achieve that overall big vision.
You know, I wanted to just tag on that from what you said at the very beginning. And then once we get the vision, then we have to meet our kids where they are. Like you know, that's what your dad did. Like he met you where you were with your skill sets, with your interest, with your aptitude to be able to do things. He didn't say, well, here's the vision. Well, Kyle's not matching what I think the vision is, and all of a sudden start to reject you. And we have parents reject kids all the time. Well, you never were quite the athlete that I thought you should be or whatever. And so the idea that your dad was giving you approval, even when you were making mistakes, meant that he was meeting you where you were. Not necessarily going to leave you there, but meeting you where you were. So I like that whole idea.
Yep. So that again, the next thing we can kind of look at to talk about the significant role that our dads play is, man, we have to learn to create positivity in our home. And I think right now, like everyone's caught up in like, oh, everything's great, and like, you know, rainbows and oranges and apples and ice creams, right? And that's not always the case. I just think it's the overall environment inside your home. When my girls walk into my home, man, I hope they feel positive. I hope they feel loved. I hope they feel that just a positiveness in our home. Like, sure, there's sarcasm and there's sometimes, you know, when girls are in trouble, like there is negativity in our home, right? I'm not saying that it's always positive, but I just think the overall, like the world is so full of negativity. Like when our girls go to school, they're surrounded by people who are bullying people, who are making fun of each other, who whatever the case may be. But man, when my girls walk into my home, I want them to feel the positiveness.
Man, I feel convicted here, and actually I'm going to kind of tag it into your next area, the idea of listening to your kids, because, you know, I know all about this stuff, positive, negative. I know about that from a career, from an occupational awareness, but in my own home, I come in with preset agendas. I come in with selfishness, like, well, today I want to get this done and this done and this done. And when there's ever a hurdle or obstacle that comes in the way, I don't always do the best job at listening to my kids because I've got my own thing on my mind that I want to do. And when what they're doing does not match what I want to do or what I feel like I have to do, I drift down that negative road. In other words, I'm on the rear end.
Sure.
And so the idea that I'm not saying we shouldn't be on the rear end.
Right.
There's a time for that. But the idea that, like, how prevalent is that? Am I always on the rear end? Are they always, you know, they're getting in my way?
Right.
And so I have to have some humble pie sometimes to go, you know what? I've been on their butt, like it seems every day for the last 3 or 4 days about something. And so when you talk about listening to them, it's more than, like, a lot of times your kids won't talk, right?
Sure.
Just depending on the personality. So listening, meaning actually, are you taking just even a minute to read them?
Yeah.
You know, like, do you notice that they're kind of pulling away from you? Do you notice that they're being more quiet around you? Do you notice that they don't bring things up to you? Well, that's probably you are probably the reason why they're shutting down at a different level. And so I've been guilty of that myself, and I can almost always say it's because I've got wrapped up in my own thing.
Right.
and all of a sudden you see, oh, your kid's just gotten distant from you.
Yeah.
So again, it's not necessarily a negative that you're always yelling and screaming. It's just that you start to drift apart.
Yeah. Well, and with that positivity, man, I know that there are men out there, maybe some of you listening, maybe your dad said these words that you'll never amount to anything. Man, that is hurtful. That is not uplifting our kids. That is not elevating them and trying to bring them to a new level. So I totally hear what you're saying, Merle, as far as, I can firsthand, I come home from work and I'm tired and I'm hungry. Like, I'm not always the most positive person in the world, right? But I also think, circling back around that, one of the things that I try to do with my girls when I do have those blow-up moments where I am negative and I do say hurtful things is, man, I got to circle back around and let them, I have to like, tell them I'm sorry for that.
Yeah.
Because that is something that homes that are full of negativity don't get to see that, because it's just that constant, you're always wrong. You did this to me. And when we take a step back and realize we have to be a little more positive with our kids, like, I think that plays a part into, like, telling them I'm sorry I did this, and then believing in them, like, what I was saying before, like, if you've had a dad or a man say you'll never amount to something, man, like, we obviously can't do that. Like, we need to be encouraging, like, man, if you want to, again, everything within reason, right? If you want to go do something, just like my dad, I'm with you. Go for it. Let's try it. If we fail together, we'll fail together. But I'm always behind you.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. I also think, like, as I'm playing this through my mind, I'm looking at times that I've called my kids out and for things that they were doing. And it's that whole idea of, you said you're never going to amount to anything, and how you obviously are going to see your kids doing things that you don't approve of or are not going to play out well. So one of the things that I think is really helpful to do, instead of saying to your kid, you're never going to amount to anything, but to actually show them pathways. And so when I talk to dads about showing pathways and addressing their kids, I'll say, okay, so you notice whatever. Let's say your kids start smoking, okay? You don't have to preach. You just have to show them what the pathway does. So I'll say more like, okay, so let's just talk about the idea that you're starting to play with some smoking, or vaping these days is much more popular.
Yep.
So the idea of, okay, let's see where that plays out. So if you continue to do this, we see from statistics, from research, from history, we see that this produces this more often, whether everything from the medical sides to whatever it is. And so now you're not saying you're never going to amount to anything, but you are saying the path that you're choosing right now, I just want you to be aware. You're choosing something that is shutting doors or reducing chances of success. So, pay attention to what you're doing.
Which goes back to the first point of having a vision. If you have a vision and you're actually living that out with your kids, when they do miss the mark on those visions, we can do corrective action. We can, just like you're saying, play it out in front of them, let them see that. I think that's absolutely appropriate to do with our kids.
Right. So, you mentioned something here about the idea of being trustworthy. Man, this is from the marriage. This goes in every part of our life. And most of us think we're trustworthy. And we say that we're trustworthy because, well, I've not robbed any banks. Yep. I've not served any prison time. So, yeah, you can trust me. And that's not really where most of us screw up with trust. We screw up on the little things, the false promises. I am so guilty. Okay, so let's just be very clear. I can't tell you the number of times that I've made what I would call a light promise. You know what? We'll work on that go-kart this weekend.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, that's no big deal. Obviously, the world won't stop either way, whether I work on the go-kart or I don't. But all of a sudden, the weekend comes and it goes.
Yep.
And I found just a few excuses. Well, buddy, the grass has got to be cut. I know you want your go-kart, but and again, it was that I actually made the statement that we will do this, and your kid then puts a lot of weight in that.
Yeah.
And again, maybe that's a one-time thing. Frequently, based off of how you're wired, I find that I pile them up.
Absolutely.
We'll go camping. We'll go work on this. We'll build the treehouse. We'll do whatever. And then you look back, and maybe there's just a small portion of those that you actually ever did, if any. And, I can vouch for myself of saying, yeah, I've blown trust in those areas.
Yeah, this is something that Jenny and I have learned as parents, because I think early on we were falling into this, and I can't tell you the number of times I've heard Jenny like tell the girls, your yeses mean yes and your nos mean no. And this is something, similar to what you were saying, like, whatever, you're hanging out with your buddies, like, man, we got to hang out sometime, or I got to go golfing. Like, I'm more apt now to say, okay, let's get the calendar out. Let's put it in there. Let's get it marked down right now. For my girls, we don't tell our girls anything that's happening until we're driving. Like, we'll be like, we're going to Indianapolis, and we will not tell them. And then, like, we'll be like, all right, everyone get in the car, we're going. And they still have no idea. We'll pull up to whatever we're doing and be like, all right, now we're going to tell you.
Yeah.
And it's because I don't want to fall into the trap of saying, one day we'll do this. And because it's so easy to do, we've all done it. We all fall into that. Like, I'll get to it later, or we'll do this weekend, because I don't want my girls to constantly hear that, because, just like it becomes habitual then, and you continue to say it, and then my girls are never going to believe anything that's happening.
Yeah. False promises, empty hopes, all of these things. So be very careful. Let your yes mean yes and your no mean no.
Yep.
How about this whole idea of showing your family what it is to be passionate, to have a passion for them? What does passion mean? In your eyes, what does that mean for your girls, like showing passion?
Yeah, so this is really big. So I want my girls to know that in our home, we are passionate about Jesus. And because I'm passionate about Jesus, I'm passionate about my wife and then my girls. And one thing that when I think of the passion, I think of my job. I'm very passionate. I love the fire science. I love the fire world. And because I'm so passionate about it, I want to learn more about it.
Right.
And if I were just similar, going back to a previous point, like if I were to say I want to be a good fireman and then I stop there, like I don't have a true vision for what I want. But because I have a passion for my family, I have vision for them. I instill certain characteristic traits that I want my girls to have. And not only, that passion doesn't just stop at I want my girls, I can't just say I want my girls to be, God-fearing, independent women. Like, I need to do things to empower them, to put them in position. So part of that passion, that's where that growth comes. And part of the growth is I have to be challenged. Like, I have to challenge myself to learn how to parent two girls. Like, I have no idea what that's like, right? I figure that out every day. But I want to find that out. I want to figure that out with them, because I have that passion. I have a passion for bettering my family, making my girls succeed in whatever they want to do in their life. If I were just to say, I want them to succeed and then not do anything, follow up with it, like I've lost that passion for them, and I don't want that to. Obviously, we talk here about your marriage being, outside of Jesus, your most important relationship. With that comes sacrifice. Like, I have to realize that I need to be passionately, like, I have to pursue my wife. And because of that, that's where that passion, I want to figure out, how do I love my wife better? How do I show the mother of my children that I love them more every day? And it's just that because I have a passion for my family, man, I'm all in. Whatever it takes, no holds bar, I'm going to do whatever it takes.
Yeah, love it. Yeah. Let's not be confused with passion from the amount of talk. In fact, there's nothing that I reject more than somebody who talks about something they say they loved. I talk about camping, I talk about fishing, I talk about this, and you never see them do it. Yep. They don't actually do it. Talk about how important God is. Talk about how important family is. Talk about how important. Talk. Passion involves doing.
Yeah.
Passion involves being entrenched in something, getting dirty with it, getting fully immersed in it. And so passion, your kids will detect this very quickly in you as they start to come of age. They'll say, yeah, all right, Dad, you talk like that's really important. But, all right, and so passion is actually way beyond talk. In fact, talk will actually reject your kids if they don't see it supported by your action. So passion has to be something that your kids see and they experience with you.
Right, which to your point leads right up to one of the next points is be authentic with your kids. Man, I do not want my girls to see a daddy in front of them, and then when he's hanging out with his buddies, it's a different man. And that's hard for me. I not making an excuse in the fire service world. Like, you can pretty much say whatever you want, and it's pretty well accepted, right? And so I am guilty at this to a certain degree, because my words sometimes aren't always uplifting and aren't always positive when I'm with a certain group. But man, I am who I am,
right.
and the guys that I work with, they know that, and I won't give up my morals and my ethics just because I'm around certain people,
right?
And because of that, and part of the reason why I am that way is I don't want my girls to say, well, when on Friday nights when Daddy hangs out with his buddies, he doesn't get home till 3 a.m. because he's out to the bar drinking. Yeah. And then when I come home, I'm like, girls, you're not going to drink till you're 21. Like, and you have these different, standards for yourself and then different standards for your family. Like, be real, like be who you are. Don't change just because, the world says you're supposed to act a certain way.
Right. Yeah. And when you're not authentic, in other words, when you do mess up, then you own it. Right. And you own it through taking responsibility for it, whether it means an apology or to make amends or to confess something. And so that maintains your authenticity within their eyes. And that means they continue to trust you. Yeah. Right. So they can give a little bit of grace when you do mess up. But that whole idea of, my kids want to see that I'm real and not put on a face. And that's tough, right? Because sometimes, depending on who we hang with and stuff, we put on these masks, and your kids will see it faster than anyone that it's a mask.
Yep. So
this next one is you, man. This is you.
This is something I bring to my family. There, see?
There.
I love the fact that in our home we have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
And man, right now our world they need the medicine. I really do feel, amongst a lot of other stuff, but man, our world is so angry and so mad at each other. Golly, can we just laugh a little bit?
Yeah.
Have some fun. Like, I want my girls to be able to fart at the dinner table. Like, I know the manners aren't exactly there, and you can get some emails later, but golly, I just don't care about that. Like, I want my girls to have fun.
Right.
Like, and farting's always going to be funny, right? I hope 50 years from now, farting's still funny. But like,
it won't be. It's being canceled, actually.
But like, golly, yes, I want that for my girls. I want them to love to laugh. Like, laughter is so good for the human body. Like, there's science behind it, I think, right?
All kinds.
It's just, man, we need to laugh a little bit.
Again, I will run with that too, as well as teaching your kids and yourself to laugh at yourself.
Yeah.
One of the huge challenges that Linda and I see that walk through the door with our teenage group, primarily the ladies, but guys too, are those who are because they're either being rejected or being canceled or being isolated, and they can't handle it because they can't see any way that they're going to come through it. And so humor is a way that at the end of the day, when you start to laugh at yourself, you realize that most of this stuff's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And so teaching humor, I would be the funny guy at our house too. Not that I'm very funny, but I would be the funny guy too. Like, I would be the guy who would walk in and see a heaviness in the room, and cut up with something or be silly with something.
Yeah.
And so, I think it's just so important because it allows people to breathe again and to realize life's not always got to be that serious.
Yep. Man, this last one, again, you made references. We are faith-based here. Golly, I was just, reading a little bit, and if you look when Jesus washed the feet of his disciples, like John 13, man, we have to have a Christ-like mindset. If you want to know what a leader looks like, read John 13. Like, the dude spells it out very clearly. This is when Jesus, he's getting ready to be betrayed. He's getting ready to be put up on a cross, and he takes the time and he leads, and he's a servant leader in that. Yeah. And he goes through and he washes his disciples' feet. Like, his disciple Peter was questioning him, like, you're not going to wash my feet. And Jesus is like, no, this is happening. We're going to do this. And Jesus has a vision. Like, a lot of the stuff we would talk about, he's passionate about the guys he's with. He's passionate about you and me. That's why he decided to do it. Like, and he says he's going to do something, and he follows through with it.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to know what it's like to be a great man, a strong dad, like, read John 13. It's a really good chapter that just is a great depiction of what a strong man looks like.
Yeah, we are called to serve our wife. We're called to serve our family and our kids. I would say, and piggyback on to that. And then if you really want to help them become successful adults, teach them how to serve as well.
Yeah.
When they learn to serve, they quickly realize that there is something more important than themselves, and we can help them start to steer off of the natural tendency to selfishness. And so, at a young age, you are all about serving them, but you also then want to impart the whole concept of servanthood. So, and while you're imparting that, you're still serving them as well. Yeah. Good deal. So, hey, happy Father's Day.
Yeah.
Go out there and crank a golf ball around.
I hope it's a good round.
Yeah. Oh, it will be.
Yeah, I've been beating my dad in golf for a couple of years now. So,
his poor dad.
So pops. Maybe I'll give you a couple strokes. Maybe I'll let you.
Yeah, you know how back. But if he's any kind of man, don't give me your charity, son. if I'm going to beat you, I'm going to beat you flat out, right?
Well,
even if I have to hit you in the head with the golf club.
He's excited now. He retired a couple years now, so he thinks retirees get to play up like the forward tees, right? So he's like, "Well, this is my little leg up."
This is where I'm at. Yeah.
Love you, Dad, man. I'm looking forward to Father's Day. Spend the day with him, man. If you guys are out there and you don't have a dad, actually a father that is here, whether it was from neglect, whether it was broken relationships, whether your dad has died, man, I just want you to take heart in the fact that God is the father to the fatherless. And if you're out there and if Father's Day is not a happy day for you, you have struggles that are going on with you and your relationship with your dad, I just encourage you, pray about it, man. God wants to be your father. God is also the father to the guys who do have fathers, earthly fathers. He is all things to everybody. Yeah. And if Father's Day is hard for you, just man, I'm praying for you. I hope that, through broken relationships or whatever your situation is, I hope that you can find grace and forgiveness through that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love my father, and I love being a father.
Yep.
And so we want to encourage all of our guys out there in the same way. So we, again, like to thank Crimer Beer House and Casey's Outdoor Solutions for being part of our Strong Dad show. We thank you for all that they do. We thank all of you listeners out there. Please continue to share our show, pass it around, give us a 5-star rating to help us in the search engines. We love what we do. If we can help you in any way, contact us at rocksolidfamilies.org. So sign us out there, dude.
Heck yeah, go out there and meet some strong dads. Hey, this is Kyle Crawford from Strong Dads. Strong Dads podcast would love to thank the Crimer's Beer House for coming alongside of us. The Crimer's Beer House was started in 1982 by the Crimer family, and since that time, they have definitely become a Cincinnati favorite. So if you're looking for an incredible meal in an incredible setting, definitely go down to Route 128 and check out the Crimer's Beer House.